Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Syazlin Fateeha and I'm going to continue to present the last topic for today, which is the possible misconception across the topics in General Science textbook for Form 4 students. Before we proceed with the possible misconception across the topics in General Science, do you know what misconception is? Misconception is an idea which is not correct that are constructed based on person's experience. In other words, misconception is a conclusion that is wrong due to faulty thinking or from a fact that is not true. Misconceptions are not unusual among students or even teachers. In fact, they are normal and is a part of learning process. Why does it consider as normal? It is normal to us because we naturally form ideas based on our everyday experience, which is obviously not all ideas we develop by ourselves are all true or evidence-based. Hence, our understanding of the ideas are flawed. Misconception can be categorized into 5 types, which are preconceived notion, non-scientific belief, conceptual misunderstanding, vernacular misconception, and the last one is factual misconception. Now, let's take a look at the 5 types of misconception one by one. The first one is preconceived notion. Preconceived notion is an opinion created based on previous experience and has no strong evidence to support the opinion. In other words, it is a personal belief or judgment that is not founded on proof or certainty. It is like when you come into a topic already believing something that appears to make sense based on what you observe with everyday life. For example, you believe that the sun rises and sets in the sky, when the truth is the sun's movement occurs due to the Earth orbit around the sun, creating sunrise and sunsets. Next, we have non-scientific belief. Non-scientific belief are beliefs learned outside the scientific evidence, such as religious or mythical teachings, pseudoscience belief, and superstition. For example, some students have learned through religious instruction about the purpose of our existence, the earth and its life form, as well as the reason for the universe to exist. This belief provide no scientific evidence to prove on why the universe exists or what is the purpose of our existence. We just have to believe it because it was stated in our religion. Other than non-scientific belief and preconceived notion, let's continue with the third type of misconception, which is conceptual misunderstanding. Conceptual misunderstanding often happen when science concepts are taught in a way that does not provoke the students to confront their own conflict in preconceived notion and non-scientific belief. For example, the students believe that a clear water is clean because they couldn't see any foreign object inside the water, when the truth is, the water looks clear, but there could be thousands of microorganisms and harmful chemicals hidden within the water. Then, let's continue with vernacular misconception. It often arises due to misunderstanding about the meaning of words. It also includes problems with vocabulary and symbols, as well as the analogy in subject matter. For instance, one symbol may be used for different purpose in different subjects, such as the letter N in earth science refers to north, while in chemistry, N stands for nitrogen, and Newton for physics. It is all depending on the context. The final type for misconception is factual misconception. Factual misconceptions are errors of fact learned at early childhood that persist through time, which is until our adulthood. For example, many of us might falsely believe that the lightning never strikes twice at the same place, even though it is obviously nonsense and not true, but we still believe it because the idea of it is already buried within us since early childhood. The first possible misconception across the topic would be the type of fire extinguishers. According to the textbook, there are only 4 types of fire extinguishers displayed to the students, which include water extinguisher, foam, carbon dioxide, and dry powder. This misconception may cause confusion to the students because the truth is there are 5 main types of fire extinguishers, which are water extinguisher, foam, carbon dioxide, dry powder, and wet chemical extinguisher. Wet chemical extinguishers are designed specifically to extinguish fires that are extremely at high temperature, usually the class F fire, which involve fats and cooking oil or flammable solid like wood and papers. Wet chemical extinguishers are usually located near to the source of fire risk, such as in the kitchen or school canteens. The next misconception is it's stated that the dry powder extinguisher can extinguish all types of fire. Actually, dry powder extinguisher are also known as ABC fire extinguisher. It means that this type of fire extinguisher are mostly suitable to be used on Class A, Class B, and Class C types of fire. Dry powder extinguisher should never be used on Class F fire. Typically, a cheap pan fire that usually occur in the kitchen of our house when we leave the cooking pan unattended with the heat on for a long time. The reason why we should never use dry powder extinguisher on cheap pan fire because the powder does not have an effective cooling effect on the fire, which may cause the fire to reignite back. Other than that, the powder is also hazardous if inhaled. Hence, it should never be used in enclosed space, such as in the kitchen of our house. This misconception may cause a great misunderstanding for the students and resulting a dangerous impact for the students if they use a dry powder extinguisher on all types of fire. Next, the misconception can be seen in the definition of a CPR, or known as cardiopulmonary resuscitation, based on the textbook. CPR is an emergency aid that involves a combination of chest compression and breathing into mouth of the victim to restore their heartbeats and breathing. From the definition given, some students might misunderstand that it is mandatory for them to perform mouth-to-mouth on the victim in order to do the CPR. The truth is, a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation is only recommended on 2 circumstances, which are the victim is a child and the rescue involves a drowning accident. According to the International License Committee on Resuscitation, ILCR, chest compression is more prioritized compared to mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and studies have found that performing chest compression alone can be just as effective as combination of chest compression with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, only if the chest compression is done correctly. According to the picture in photograph 2.1, which displayed a group of students learning to do CPR, we could clearly see that the technique displayed by the student is incorrect due to her body position. The right way for her to perform the chest compression is by placing 2 fingers at the tip of the breastbone and place the heel of other hand right above fingers, which is at the closest side of the victim's face. Then proceed to give chest compression by using both hands interlocked with each other in between the nipples. By looking at this CPR procedure, do you think this CPR technique is applicable to use on everyone? The truth is, CPR is not universal to use to all age groups. We need to use different CPR techniques based on their age groups. These different techniques according to their age group are very important to prevent serious injuries and to save the victim's life. For infant aged 1 year or less, chest compression is made by putting 2 fingers in the center of the chest just below the nipple line, while for the child over age of 1 year old, the chest compression is made by placing one hand in between the nipple. Based on the textbook, Heimlich maneuver is more emphasized to be used on human only. However, do you know that this technique is also applicable to use on animals too? First of all, let's see the definition of Heimlich maneuver. Heimlich maneuver is an emergency rescue procedure for application to someone choking on a foreign object to the extent that the victim cannot breathe. The technique is done by the rescuer placing a fist between the victim's lower ribs from behind and jerk upwards with a sufficient force to eject the object from the victim's windpipe. To apply this technique on animals such as dog, the rescuer needs to wrap his hand around the dog's abdomen just below his ribs. Then, press and jerk upwards towards the dog's backbone with enough force until the object which caused the choking come out from the dog's mouth. It is very important to know and to apply Heimlich maneuver on human as well as animals who are choking to prevent them from brain damage, or even worse, could lead them to death. In conclusion, there are plenty of possible misconceptions that may arise due to confusion of ideas with insufficient understanding regarding the ideas. Hence, students should get their idea to be as clear as possible to avoid misjudgment or misconceptions. The teachers also need to help their students to be more aware of their misconception regarding their personal belief or ideas.